Hello everyone and welcome to another game of World of Warships. Today we are watching Soul Blade 1975 in the Fiji, the Tier 7 British cruiser. He is on the map Northern Lights in a 4-point domination game mode. It's a Tier 8 battle, so could be worse, could be better. There is one carrier around and only 2 enemy destroyers. Now, as usual, this replay is on wowreplays.com and there will be a link in the video description. So, here in the beginning, he is going towards Point Alpha. And, well, Tier 7 is where I've heard the British cruisers get better. The low-tier British cruisers aren't that great from the feedback I've heard so far. My personal experience with British ships is quite limited. So I think they probably have still a lot of testing to do, and maybe a lot of those ships might need adjustments. Now, British cruisers only have armor-piercing shells, and that's already a reason why people complain a lot. If your enemies are angled very well, yeah, it's not... you aren't in a great position. Now, the British cruisers also don't have defensive fire, but they do come with smoke, and they come with a heal. And the heal gets really strong in the higher tiers, I've heard. The smoke is the same smoke as the Belfast has. It deploys smoke for a very short duration. The smoke itself lasts quite for a while, but you only deploy, I think, at maximum 2 smoke clouds. And if you're going fast, you will probably get life out of your smoke. Now here is a nice hit at the Mutsuki. Your armor piercing is improved. You get less over-penetrations and I think less bounces with British armor piercing. Still, there are situations where you'd obviously wish you had high explosive. And you saw now the anti-air itself is not that bad, even without defensive fire. In lower tiers, I've heard the anti-air is pretty bad, but I think it gets quite good. Now we can see here the friendly team has almost taken Point Bravo, and there's quite a bit of force here moving on the right side towards Point Charlie and Delta. And there are only a few friendlies here at Point Alpha, so they aren't in a great spot. Now you can see Soul Blade here. He has his torpedoes set to single file launch. The British cruisers have 2 options for their torpedoes: single file and a small spread. Single file means you can launch each torpedo individually from a launcher. Well, I'm not exactly sure how much used a single file is, but it's certainly an interesting thing. And now you just saw there was 0 damage because the enemy was angled. So, yeah, in this situation, armor piercing might not be the best choice, but I think he can secure a few decent hits now. Or not. So, at times, this armor piercing thing is rather frustrating. The torpedoes, by the way, have a range of 8 km on the Fiji, so that's decent. Now he has also activated his hydroacoustic surge, because there is an enemy smoke cloud here. There might still be a destroyer around somewhere. And here is where it gets a bit problematic. You can see here on the minimap enemy ships are moving in from the rear. Now he is here in an okay position with his smoke and this island because he is protected from the main force, and he probably figures he could just reverse behind this island if he needs to get out, but unfortunately now there is a ship behind him, which forces him kind of to make a move. Now this cruiser is showing his broadside, and that's exactly what British cruisers are good at: punishing broadsides. Now, unfortunately, with him out of his smoke and now forced to move here ahead, he is in front of a lot of enemy guns. Hopefully he can get a few... yeah, that was a nice hit on the destroyer, and you can see the armor piercing of British cruisers is probably quite decent to deal with destroyers because of the shorter fuse times and less overpens. Now he is launching his torpedoes probably at the Bayern and is trying to get out of here. but it looks pretty bad. The smoke is still on cooldown. British ships have quite decent concealment, but those enemies are a bit too close. Now he has to survive until his smoke gets ready, and note the torpedo launcher on one side is destroyed. Now he is not firing back because he really wants to get back into concealment. And I think he will get a hit on the Bayern here. Now his smoke is ready, he has deployed his smoke, he's trying to slow down, but he doesn't manage to stay inside the smoke cloud, and that's a problem with the British smoke. If you're moving, you will probably move out of your smoke. And you see he only deployed 2 of these smoke bubbles. Now he will reverse back into the smoke because it's his best chance to stay alive, I guess. Meanwhile, the enemy team is capturing Bravo, but the friendly team might get Charlie. They still have quite a few ships here on the right flank. And this Tirpitz is coming closer. Now he doesn't have a torpedo launcher on this side, so he has to turn his ship if he wants to torpedo this Tirpitz. And keep in mind that the smoke cloud is very small. And he can't really drive out of it, or the Tirpitz will kill him. He got actually a few okay hits against the Tirpitz superstructure. And yeah, now a lot depends on those torpedoes. Because the Tirpitz is at very full health and awfully close. Now he makes use of the single launch. He wants to make sure all of those torpedoes hit. And well, I think all 3 would have hit, but the first detonated the Tirpitz. That was obviously amazing. Otherwise, he'd be in some severe troubles here. The friendly battleship who was with him just went down, but this enemy cruiser is almost down, and he is down. Now he's moving forward again, and he is pretty close to the edge of the point he's trying to capture, and I think he's noticed this a little too late. And now he's trying to stay inside the capture zone, which isn't gonna happen. But he is not under fire, and he is not under any time pressure, so he can just turn around and capture this point now in peace. It's looking pretty good. The friendly team controls Bravo and Charlie, and while the enemies still have Delta, and there are ships from there moving this direction, the friendly team has more ships left. Although, I mean, this carrier is obviously just running away now, and I'm not sure what this battleship can do against this force, so this battleship certainly needs reinforcements, and this Pensacola here is pretty doomed. Now Soulblade uses his torpedo launchers here once again, trying to ambush this Pensacola, but he is spotted by a plane, and now he will prepare to unleash a broadside salvo into the Pensacola. But he himself is at low health, and his ship doesn't have a lot of armor. The British aren't, they are light cruisers, they aren't very well armored. There is 1 torpedo hit, unfortunately only 1. But he managed to capture this point, and now he can angle his ship and, well, welcome this Pensacola. With hopefully a nice salvo. Now there is a battleship here also supporting him. And there is the Pensacola, there is the salvo, some nice citadels, some good damage. And, well, even though he is angling, it's not, well, that there isn't that much armor on the British ships. Now he is holding his fire here because he is too close. The British have a very high shell arc, and he wants to make sure this shells really hit, where they should. And it pays off. He held his fire, and with a few more citadels, he takes out the Pensacola. He is still alive. He still has a charge of his heel left. And it's looking great. A friendly ship snuck behind the enemy line and is now taking control of Delta. The friendly Tirpitz is doing a good job at kiting those enemies. And yeah, I think the enemies had way too many ships here at Point Delta. Point Delta is just too far away from the other points to support them, and now they are stuck with their surviving ships in... basically had to go a long way around in order to attack another point, and while they were doing that, a friendly team just snuck behind them. So this is a win already. This is basically just a cleanup operation here, I guess. So yeah, what shall we say about the British cruisers? I think they need a lot more testing. And as I said, from what I've heard, the lower tiers just really aren't great. And if it takes you until tier 7 until you get a decent ship, most people will stop playing the line before that. And yet the lack of high explosive makes them just not very versatile. It's an interesting concept, I give them that, but I think it's just... yeah, I don't know. It probably needs more testing, and then we will see where we go from there. If the line doesn't work, I'm pretty sure Wargaming will try to fix it. Now Soulblade is at very low health here, so he has deployed his last smoke screen. He is considering launching his torpedoes. They only have 8 km range, but these ships are coming towards him, so it's possible that they sail into his range. This North Carolina is showing broadside. Now his armor piercing is doing a reasonable amount of damage against the North Carolina here. I mean, as you can see, if the angle is okay, and so the armor piercing can work even against battleships, it's just when the angle does not work, you are asking yourself, what can you do? The torpedoes, can't forget about the torpedoes. Torpedoes are always a nice choice if they have a decent range. But you probably don't want to get that close to the enemies. And look at that, there is a Hipper who is showing broadside. I think British cruisers are really good at punishing mistakes from the enemies, but they are not so good at, yeah, well, dealing with well-angled ships or good players. But again, as I said, I think there needs to be a lot more testing done with those until we can reasonably say how they will perform. And I think the lower tiers probably definitely need another look at. And here is the win. Let's take a look at the results. Soulblade managed to get 3001 base experience and he sunk 4 enemy ships. So, very well played by him. I think it was also rather well played by the team as a whole. And it showed off the new tier 7 British cruiser. Now Soulblade managed to get himself Confederate Dreadnought, Devastating Strike and High Caliber. He managed to score 173,000 points of damage. And yeah, I guess that tier 7 British cruiser can work quite fine. It remains to be seen how well the line does overall, and I'm pretty sure there will be further adjustments needed if you make such a drastic step as to remove high explosive from a ship. I think it needs a lot of testing and a lot of fine-tuning until something like this can work, and maybe a lot of time to find out if it can work. So let's see how the British cruisers will perform. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time.